Hey, what's going on, roleplayers? It's the Bard here, and welcome back to the corner. And today we're going to be talking about Necromancy again. Or are we talking about divination? So I'm going to explain this only one more time. Necromancy is a school of life. I feel like I could spend the rest of my life having this conversation. There's going to be a lot of curses, there's going to be a lot of conditions such as fatigue, exhaustion, sickened, frightened. These are all very, very important things to remember. So, Cursecaster in particular should have a deep fascination with the fundamentals of life and how it functions. You can reduce their strength, you can, poison their body. Are you seeing a theme here? Do you see what I mean? Now, before any of you start having a meltdown in the comments section, I am not bashing the game. I love this game. It's my favourite game. It's the thing that's given me the most enjoyment over all these years. But that doesn't mean that our favourite things aren't without fault and that they're not above criticism. Because criticism is how we actually improve things. By making things better, by changing things that don't work. Necromancy spells hold dominion over life and death. Their effects can drain the stamina out of an opponent's body, exert control over the undead, or instill paralyzing fear in the creature's mind. To a necromancer, magic is based on the idea that life is an essential element in the universe, one that can be controlled and manipulated. Now, these aren't my words, these are Wizards of the Coast words. It comes straight out of their Complete Mage book for 3.5 edition. So they already know the rules, and they already know the fundamental of what necromancy is, and yet when they present a necromancer class to us, or some subclass of necromancer such as a prestige class, they always give us the wrong thing. Now, I'm not knocking the minionmancer style of play. If you like to have lots of minions and lots of skeletons running around, well, that's your business. You can play the game however you want to. But I really believe that the necromancer is a character that affects life, and it is a character that should specialise in curses. And that option hasn't been given to us. Two of the arcane tradition of necromancy abilities actually involve undead and either creating them and making them better or taking control over them, which is fine if you want to play the minionmancer style. Our other two abilities involve the Grim Harvest, which gets us extra hit points, which, let's be fair, we don't really care that much about. The only other good one is the Inured to Undeath, where you have resistance against the necrotic damage, and of course your hit point maximum can't be reduced, because it does represent the use of negative energy to protect the life around it. So it is kind of themed in that way, but it's the only one that really kind of makes any kind of sense to the true necromancer, as it were. So diviners just make better necromancers, as sad as it may be. Because if you're going for a curse caster, then you want your curses to stick. Now, we don't have the options anymore like spell focus, which really used to add a lot of theme to our characters, but what we do have for the diviner is Portent, and it is pretty much just as good. If you're relying on a caster whose primary spell list consists of save or suck, save or screwed, save or die style spells, then your intelligence has to be as high as you can possibly get it. More so, it's so much more important than it is for other kind of casters who specialise in personal buffs or that kind of thing, because you need your spells to be as difficult to resist as possible. So necromancies, certain evocations, enchantments, certain transmutations, they do need to be as potent as you can get them. And the best way out of all of the arcane traditions is to use Portent to get this to happen. So if you look at your spell save DC, the calculation is 8 plus your proficiency modifier plus your intelligence modifier. Now, if you're dealing with a creature that's got proficiency added to its saving throw against the effect that you're using, then you're pretty much just cancelling your proficiencies out. So the only thing you have to worry about then is 8 plus your ability score modifier, which is probably going to be something in the region of maybe 14 or 15 as a score. So you'll get an ability score modifier of 2, totals out at 10. So it's pretty much 50-50 if you're going to affect a creature that is proficient in saves against what you're using. Simply put, if you're working on the same proficiency and you're working on the same ability score, then the creature only has to roll 8 or more in order to save against whatever it is you're casting, and that just isn't good enough. So the obvious way around this is to cast spells which your opponent is going to be weak against. So for example, if you're up against a rogue, their saving throws are dexterity and intelligence. So you'll be able to take out their proficiency on all those saves, providing of course you're using a spell that affects either strength, constitution, wisdom or charisma. However, sometimes you just need a spell or effect to hit a creature, and even though it is strong against that particular spell, you're gonna want that effect on it anyway because it suits the situation so perfectly. So how are you going to get it on there? Well, you just need to either A, hope for the best, or B, try to manipulate the numbers. And I think we all know which one's going to work best. So what is an arcane tradition as such? Well, it's just a fancy way of saying a school specialisation. And what is a specialisation? It's just an in-depth knowledge of a specific thing. Now, granted, specialisations aren't what they used to be, but it doesn't mean that they aren't still functional. So the diviner has an in-depth knowledge of how to gain knowledge. Okay, I can work with that. Make sure you invest in Learman's secret chest spell or something similar, or at higher levels perhaps go with demiplane so you can have your own little personal library. But just be careful because you're going to need a lot of paper, a lot of books and a lot of ink in order to write down everything that you're going to know about this one particular subject. Technically this could actually work for any arcane tradition or specialisation of magic, but I choose Necromancy purely because it's my favourite. So the first thing our diviner necromancer is going to want to do is to make notes on all the saving throws for all the classes in the player's handbook. You can actually do this in game. Talk to the other party members in your group and ask them about their experiences, ask them about their faith, ask them about their research, ask them about their training regimes, and learn something about what the classes do and what they fortify themselves against. This is actually a great little piece of character development because it allows the other players around the table to share something about their character, but once they've told you about it, you have an excuse now to write it down. You can then just say, right, okay, I've been told about what the character can do, so I'll look it up in the player's handbook and I'll just make a note that fighters are good against this particular save and this particular save but weak against the others. And then you can make yourself a little bestiary, so you can actually write down about the creatures that you encounter, write down about the classes that you encounter, and start to make notes on which spells will affect which creatures best. Since necromancy is about understanding the different facets of life and which spells will affect them in what ways, then understanding what certain creatures and certain classes are going to be weak against is basically the fundamental of your art. Furthermore, divination magic is about uncovering secrets, and it's the best tool that you've got in order to learn something about a creature that you've never seen before. So if you've not seen a particular creature and you don't know anything about it, and you haven't got a nearby library to research in, then you can always use spells and stuff like that to try to learn a little bit more about the situation that you're going up against. And again, once you've learned something about it by using your spells, make sure you write it down. Make sure you have a book of ideas and a book of things that you can refer to so that you are literally doing exactly what a true wizard would do. You're doing research, you're making notes, you're formulating strategies, and it's all legitimate stuff. Even the dead have answers as well, and Speak with Dead is your ultimate necromancy / divination crossover spell. If they're willing to tell you about themselves and the sort of things that they're strong against and weak against, well, then again, you can use that to get information. But they might not even have to tell you directly. You can speak to them and ask them questions, and then you can learn things that they might inadvertently tell you. Once you have this wealth of knowledge, it allows you to then keep hold of your Portent ability to use when you really, really need it, because if you come across a creature you haven't encountered before, then you can force it to have a low saving throw against one of your more powerful spells and deal either a lot of damage to it or maybe even take it outright in one shot, depending on what kind of spell you're using. Spells like Clairvoyance or Arcane Eye or any other spell that allows you to physically see another creature are going to be very important for the use of your Portent ability, because you need to be able to see the creature that you're going to affect. You can see the creature even from a very long distance away using your spells, Then you can use your Portent ability to force a low saving throw so that your other divinations can then gather up the information that you need in order to face that creature later on. So with all that prior knowledge of the creature that you're going up against, with your entire bestiary that you've been collecting over the game sessions, and with your prepared tactics ready for when you do encounter the creature, you're going to be completely ready for anything the GM's going to throw at you. Let it all just drift away. So thanks guys for listening to my views on diviners and how they can actually make better necromancers than necromancers themselves, or in actual fact pretty much some of the best wizards in the entire game. So if you've got similar ideas or you want to discuss it further, leave a comment in the section below. If you like it, you know what to do, and if you're not subscribed yet, why not consider doing so, and I will see you guys next time at the gaming table.